that's here. And Jack Dane and I have a long, long history.
Yep.
A lot of that in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so, talked to Jax about it, and he came to me and said, "I heard you're looking for a partner. Let's do this." So it's, um, but I mean, if I start naming teams, I'm going to leave not just 5 or 10 good teams out, 5 or 10 teams that have the potential to win it.
Right.
So
Exactly.
but it's the OC there in Forney, Texas, is an incredible, incredible venue.
Yeah.
I want to say it's 3 or 4 months old. It's
That's
become
awesome.
kind of my Texas home base for Texas style wrestling.
Hmm.
I've been a big supporter of you know of the event coming up, of our talent, because we actually have some of the same talent works for both promotions.
That's awesome.
So it's the facility is incredible. It's perfect for wrestling. It's brand new. It's in a great area.
Yeah.
It is the expectations. This is going to be a huge event. So take I know this is a long answer, which is what I do, but it's like
Podcast
it's
is
the
good.
commentary. It's a commentator, but it's like take the history of the Crockett Cup
Hmm.
and take all of those tag teams and go back in that history and say, okay, this is what this was. Take now the history of the NWA. Take the current NWA. You take the legacy and the history and the tradition, and you push all that together in Texas. Like you
Right.
said, again, it's always going, no matter what, it's always going to be the home of the Von Erichs. It just
Yep.
is. Um, so you throw all that together, and it's going to be one amazing event.
Right. And there's again so much more talent, like you were saying, coming through Texas and coming out of Texas. We're seeing them on AEW every week. We're seeing them on WWE, NXT, New Japan. We're seeing guys there. Like Texas is a hotbed, and it's not just one area either. It's the entire
Right,
state. You've
right.
got guys and girls from up here in North Texas, down in Austin, San Antonio. I mean, even Thunder Rosa has her company down there.
Yeah.
Houston
Houston
has a
Pro.
yeah. Houston has amazing talent coming out of there too. I mean, as much as Shane Taylor is from Ohio, he lives down in the Houston area.
Right.
So like you're seeing these amazing talent come through here. And I love that NWA is finally coming to Texas and doing a
Me
show here.
too.
Yeah,
Me
the new
too.
NWA coming out
Right.
through here. So like it's absolutely going to be amazing. And I was curious on your end, like you said, you're coming back into NWA action again. But not only are you in a tag match, but you could potentially have 3 or 4 matches in one night. How are you kind of mentally preparing for that as well? Because, going through a gauntlet like that could be really tough, but holding the Crockett Cup at the end of the night is obviously the biggest reward you could get.
Well, it's oh, good. That's a really good question. I think there's a couple of avenues to that. Um, Physically, I always try to be prepared.
There you go.
I mean, I'm in the gym more than I'm just. I mean, I basically I work.
Mhm.
I'm a teacher. I go straight to the gym. I come straight home. I eat. I get a couple hours at home with whatever we're binge watching at the time, and it's bedtime, and we do it again the next day.
Yeah.
Um, but boy, I keep saying this, it's true every time. But the older I get, the harder it gets.
Hmm.
It's okay. It was routine, working when I first came to Texas. I got involved with the Christian Wrestling Federation, and our talent was not deep.
Right.
So APOC and we worked legitimately two matches every show. And we did, I think one year we did 140 shows or something throughout the United States. And that was honestly nothing. Yeah, it was
Mhm.
great. That's what we wanted to be doing. Now and it's not the actual match itself. I mean, I've tried to work smarter,
Mhm.
but it's the recovery time,
Yep.
which if I'm working on Friday, Saturday, and maybe Sunday, okay, I can fight through that pretty easy. But like you said, potentially this is a 1 day tournament with three or
Yeah.
four matches, and uh, I'm going to have to be very, very aware of staying. That it's like you prepare, you stretch, you get ready, you warm up, you go have a match, and you're done.
Hmm.
And you now you can't do that. So
No.
it's I have to be aware of not cooling down,
Yep.
too much. Um, but that's the other part of that is that's why it's so important who your partner is. You
Very
know,
true.
we communicate constantly,
Yeah.
and it may be, hey man, my knee is killing me tonight, and the other guy will say, I got you. So it's just a matter of who's freshest, who's feeling it, and
Yeah,
because ultimately the goal is to, in this case, walk away with that cup.
exactly. No, I mean, we've already talked about the history of that cup, and I can't imagine, holding that up at the end of the night, and then, as I imagine most wrestlers might maybe take a drink of, for your case, soda out of it afterwards. So, something.
Man, it's all about it's Jax is, no, I won't even say maybe, he's the most decorated NWA champion of all time
Mhm.
for our currents. I mean, um I'm not very far behind that.
Right.
So you want to add to that list? Let's get that Crockett Cup.
Yeah. It's just little bucket list things that just like
Yeah.
that they present themselves. I love it. So you already mentioned that you're a full-time teacher as well when you're not working in the NWA. Which came first, the love of pro wrestling or the love of helping molding young minds?
Terrible question. What makes you? Oh man, um, I love professional wrestling.
There you go.
I have. I always have. I've always done something where I've worked with youth, whether it was through youth group, through something. I've always done that. Um, my goal in life was never to be a teacher.
Oh,
It was, I did a lot of things. I
yeah.
mean, I'm vice president of two different companies. Um, helped run three different businesses. I was a pharmaceutical rep for a while.
Oh,
I
wow.
worked for the Democrat Gazette in Arkansas. I did a lot of things.
Hmm.
Um, Really, it came down to, my wife was a school teacher, and I had I'd worked for a company, grew the company sold,
Hmm.
which you would think was a good deal, and it was for the owners. But what it did for me was I had to find another job. So as I started looking, I thought, hey, you know what? This summer's off thing, that's a pretty good deal. They get 2 weeks for Christmas and a week for Thanksgiving and
Yeah.
every weekend off. And if I want to wrestle, right? If I have to have a job,
All right.
so teaching's challenging.
Oh,
It's
without a
I
doubt.
don't it's still got a couple years before I can retire. But I mean, it's tough. But the easy answer, my love for wrestling was
Yeah.
at 11, 10, 12 years old. And, teaching was at 45, I think, where I started
Right.
teaching. So,
Yeah, I have friends that are teachers, and I know how hard it is for them. And I can, thank you for what you do because I know teachers do
thank
not
you,
get
man.
the thanks that they get without a doubt. Now, speaking of the fact that you were an NWA world champion, was there a play like what was the kind of quote unquote weirdest place you either took or wore the belt after you won it?
Weirdest or coolest?
But let's go both. Yeah.
Um, when you're, no matter what championship you hold,
Mhm.
or if you're a wrestler in any state, you are not always working in front of 18,000 people. Um, I took that title everywhere and proudly defended it, and it didn't matter. I don't know how many states. And sometimes you would show up and it would be just like you'd expect. It would be a great, arena or a high school gym, and sometimes it would be a tent outside with, you never know. The way the original NWA affiliates were set up is, I think at one point there were 53 affiliates in
Yeah.
the United States, and there was one in Australia, but everyone was required to use the champion at least one time a year,
Right.
the world champion, and one other champion. That was part of the contract. So I went to promotions all over the country,
It's awesome.
and they all were different.
Yeah.
Now, now that was one of the things that was one of the goals of the NWA. They wanted to change. They wanted to know that the product that was out there was the same, the same quality as in every affiliate. And that's one of the reasons why they kind of did away with the affiliates that they had, and
Mhm.
they stopped and restructured. They're kind of moving toward that again. The coolest place is to defend the NWA World's title in Japan,
Oh yeah.
because it is wrestling is revered there.
Yep.
It is not. It is. I got off or I got out of our cab, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm really excited. Everybody, it's kind of like the mecca for wrestling if you want to
Yes.
wrestle in Japan. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm the Arkansas boy so, and you get out of the taxi and there are 60 people waiting with your picture, wanting autographs. I mean, I'm saying it's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And it wasn't, when I went there, I wrestled the first title defense was a 400-pound former sumo who also did MMA, named Hama, and
Okay.
he looked exactly like you're picturing right now. But he was super talented as far
Yeah.
as the size. But I just kind of figured, we all did. Okay, well, I'm in Japan.
Hmm.
I'm probably going to have to take the more aggressive, more heel roll. And I walked through the curtain and they exploded. And it was NWA, because they grew up with the NWA world champions like Harley Race and Ric Flair,
Right.
uh, the Funks. I mean, coming. And when they didn't ask what music I wanted,
Oh wow.
they played the same theme that every NWA champion came out to in Japan for 50 years. So
Hmm.
that was the coolest.
So awesome.
Yeah, it was a good experience.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean, like you said, Japan is like the mecca if you are a pro wrestler or a pro wrestling fan of, you know, because they, like you said, they treat it like it's a real sport, and
Mhm.
I always love watching Japanese wrestling, and we're seeing such a giant resurgence of people now, obviously with the access of everything at your hands at any
Right.
moment. You're getting all these different companies that are getting so much more spotlight, and even the women are doing fantastic things to the point to where they're just started another company. So
Yeah.
it's great, and I love all pro wrestling, and then obviously the Japanese pro wrestling as well.
Well, and I think that the more wrestling there is, the better it is for everybody.
That, yes, without a doubt. Which I love the fact that the NWA did come back because it is giving more workers, whether they, no matter what gender they're
Mhm.
aligning themselves with, but they're giving them the time and they're giving them
Right.
the space to showcase themselves, and I love it.
Well, and I think part of that vision is Billy understands, and we are not either of the other two big promotions. We don't want to
Yeah.
be.
Right.
Right. Because if you do that, really all you're doing is you're jumping into a pool, and you're
Mhm.
you're diluting the pool with not necessarily the same talent, but with the same product.
Right.
So very much we want to differentiate.
As
We
we
want
should.
to work a more physical style.
Yeah.
We now, don't get me wrong, we've got some amazing junior heavyweights that are
Oh yeah.
unbelievable. But I'll tell you what, you walk into our locker room, and there are a bunch of there's some big boys in there that you would not want to run into, and it's you're in with a bunch of tough men and women when
Mhm.
nobody has to tell you how tough they are,
Exactly.
right? Nobody's in there telling you what they can and can't do, because they already know, and nobody's responding to it because we all know what we can do and what we can't do. And
As it should
let's,
be.
so we're definitely a different breed on purpose.
Yes, without a doubt. We are running a little bit low on time, so real fast, if people want to follow you and the NWA, get tickets to the Crockett Cup, how do they do so?
Well, NWA is the place to go. It's
Okay.
we've got there's the merch shop, ticket sales, all of those things are posted on my social media also, but just NWA. And I think I'm probably tickets still available,
Oh
but
yeah.
going fast without a doubt.
Mhm.
I think that, like I said, that's kind of a home base. I think that whole 600-700 at
Mhm.
best. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
And if you want to see it, you need to get your tickets and go. It's a different thing. It is hard hitting,
Hmm.
explosive action, and there's not a weak talent in the bunch.
No.
So,
And
but
then one last thing, when you did make that transition over to the commentary table, what did you think was the most, what did you learn the most that you thought was going to be easier going into it?
it. let me finish this thought before anybody jumps to where they think I'm going. It actually